Welcome to Themes to be Seen. Oh, hi. My name is Matt Klaus.
I'm Tara Caustic.
And she is still fighting with that chair.
You really need a new one.
This is episode 3.
Hi, Nick.
Of our season 2 of our second season.
Mm-hmm.
Where we continue with our analysis of It Follows.
And we have a brand new Scene Again segment this week. And a new Themes to be Heard segment.
Yep. And we got a little haul. It looks like we got a little haul that you want. Did you bring
we
that
have
in here?
We have a book haul. Because we went to a new place today. We went... Did you forget already?
No, I was
trying to... It was just hours ago.
No, I was trying to think of a pun way to work book haul. It wasn't going to work. I was thinking it wasn't going to happen.
So... It's been open for a while, but we finally went to Midland Street Books.
Yeah.
And we got some books.
Well, mostly books.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You have your cassette.
It was just so funny because he was like, All right, here, we'll go through them. We'll do that. We'll do that now before we do anything else.
Okay.
So, our haul from Midland Street Books, right here in beautiful Bay City, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
If you're watching from anywhere else in the world, Bay City, Michigan is relatively small. It's separated in the middle by a river, and it's actually kind of a nice, quiet little place to live. All right.
Yeah.
So, first, I bought a full cassette collection audiobook of Stephen King's Bag of Bones. Which is more of it's not as much a horror as it is like a dramatic murder mystery kind of thing.
I'm not familiar.
They did a TV special of this too.
Oh. Who was in it?
I don't remember. I remember it being on, and I remember it being huge, and I remember watching it. I don't remember who was in it. I don't think there was very many like big name people in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's too bad I totaled my previous car because I used to have a
and here is
cassette
Dyson.
tape player.
Dyson saying hello. There he is.
So we had an eventful week with Dyson. His birthday was last Monday, and
he decided to get into the trash. And
he ate some dark chocolate cake.
So we spent all week worried. Or we spent the first 2 days of the week worried
that he was... We called the emergency vet, and I still didn't sleep at all that night. Because every time he moved while he was sleeping, I was like, is he having a seizure? And then I called his actual vet in the morning, and of course they were all booked up. And I think if it really had been an emergency, they would have tried to find a way to get him in. But she was like, because of his size and the amount of chocolate he ate, he should be fine. We'll just have him go on a bland diet for a few days. So he was eating like just white rice and boiled chicken. He didn't get sick at all, which is, it's good, but very strange too. But yeah, so
we got
lucky. It was a worrisome week.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you're next.
I forgot that you got this.
Yeah.
I guess someone had ordered it a month ago on their website and just never came and picked it up, so it was just sitting.
Oh, we gotta say what it is for the people who can't see in case they're listening to audio.
Okay.
It's a copy of it's a softcover copy of Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse 5, which is possibly one of the greatest literary pieces of art ever made. I adore this book so much. I can't wait to read it again. It's been so long. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. He had a separate Stephen King section, so...
Oh, no, that was in
this was on the dollar
He had a rack of $1 things.
Yeah, so this is Night Shift by Stephen King.
It's a collection of shorts.
I'll just put that there. I thought this looked kind of cool. It's called Colors of Death by Sharon Wagner. It's obviously very old, but it looks like a quick read, and I've never heard of it, and I always like to give obscure literature a chance. It's from 1974. So, Yeah, I'm interested to read
One of the gems that we came across in that dollar rack. Because we were looking at this dollar rack, like he has the $1 books sitting outside of the store, and we're just kind of flipping through them, and we find literally an original copy original pressing copy of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and I couldn't believe it. It has like the date it was printed and everything, and it's.
Yeah, I have a hard cover copy of all of them put together, but this was still a really cool find because, let's see, when did this come out? 1981.
It's a 1981 copy of Scary Stories. It's really cool. It's just a cool thing to find, you know?
And then finally, I don't know if we had previously mentioned this, but I finally found a copy of Christine by Stephen King. I love the movie, so I'm very excited to read the book at last.
Yeah, I really hope that you read it and then I'll read it because I want to see the differences. I know that there are some differences, and I know that John Carpenter and Stephen King had their differences, but I feel like independently of each other, they're both great pieces of art. And then we got a couple movies, couple cool Criterion. They're both Criterions. Yeah.
So currently there's that 50% off Criterion sale, and I love this movie. I finally picked up a copy of Eyes Without a Face. If you're familiar with the Billy Idol song, yes, it is inspired by this movie.
Oh, I can put that right in the episode. No.
Yeah, it's a French horror movie from 1960.
It's messed up.
It's beautiful and horrific all in one.
I forget how her face gets messed up, but he's trying to replace it.
She was like in a car accident.
And then he's just killing young ladies and trying to take their face and put it on her.
So she lost her looks, but not her soul. And her dad basically doesn't have a soul, and it's kind of like a study of that. How she might look like a monster, but she still has her soul and her morals intact.
And then also, in honor of our Scene Again segment this week,
the timing of things has been crazy because
really weird.
We decided to do The Outsiders this week, and it turns out The Outsiders was trending already this week because it was finally released on like 4K. So like Turner Classic Movies had Francis Ford Coppola on Friday night, and they showed the complete novel, which is the complete version.
The total cut,
Outsiders,
without any edits. Every scene that he actually finished was in the film, and I actually, after watching our copy of the theatrical copy we have, it's better. But moreover, it's written by author S.E. Hinton, who also wrote
Rumblefish.
So we got the Criterion of Rumblefish, which is a film I've never seen.
Me either, and I've always heard about it because it stars Matt Dillon. Yeah, so this was also a story by S.E. Hinton, and this was the follow-up to The Outsiders, and it also has Matt Dillon and Diane Lane in it. Mickey Rourke is in this.
Oh.
Yeah, early Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
But I have always heard Matt Dillon's performance in this is like one of the best like young performances ever on film.
Well, we'll also talk later about Matt Dillon's performance in The Outsiders, which is amazing also.
Yeah, so I'm very much looking forward to finally watching that. And very excited to finally own Eyes Without a Face.
Yeah, we've talked about Eyes Without a Face for years, and we've talked about it to friends and family members, and then it just...
Yeah.
And then now we finally have it. So, awesome.
All right, so what should we start with tonight?
I think we should start off, seeing as though we had a segue.
The Outsiders.
With The Outsiders. Directed by legendary... top 5 of all time, Francis Ford Coppola, who it was actually really cool to see him on Turner Classic Movies actually talking about making this movie.
Yeah. And that night, too, they were showing some of his other movies, and I finally saw another older movie of his called The Rain People. And that was, like, the first time he worked with James Caan and Robert Duvall, who, of course, would later go on to be in the Godfather movies. But that was quite an interesting road trip kind of movie. But what?
Louder. Just a little bit louder.
Louder?
Just a little bit louder.
I can't be loud. Why? What are you looking at? Where?
You see where that?
Oh.
We need to keep. Yep. We need to keep that at least yellow or red.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. Anyway, Francis Ford Coppola went on to direct The Godfather. Mm-hmm. He went on to direct. Why am I blanking? I just looked at the list too.
Dracula.
What?
Dracula.
Oh, he did the Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. With Gary Oldman. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, everybody. I have a tendency to get headaches, and I just started to get this really weird headache right before we went on.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna work my way through it. I promise.
Yeah.
But Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula with Gary Oldman and Keanu Reeves. Mm-hmm. While some people have a problem with it, it's a great film if you look at it as a theater play. Mm-hmm. Which maybe stay tuned someday for something.
And then Francis Ford Coppola, he also did Apocalypse Now, I believe.
No.
Who did that?
That was Kubrick.
That was Full Metal Jacket.
Did Coppola do Apocalypse Now?
I'm fairly certain.
Look up the old IMDb Tribune. Sorry, if you got listeners of the podcast, people watching currently, if you hear a weird noise, that's Dyson licking his paw. Hey. Thank you.
Is he still down there?
Yeah, he's right under my butt.
Yes, Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse
Now.
Apocalypse Now. Which this film is obviously, The Outsiders, is obviously a purposeful, how do I explain this? It's a purposeful throwback to Golden Age Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. So basically, the year before he made The Outsiders, he had like this romantic movie come out, and it was like his least successful movie ever. I forget who was in it. Is something called Heart, but it bombed like really bad, and so there were school children who were reading The Outsiders, and they voted on, like, if someone could direct this movie, who would you want to direct it, and they voted for him. So he was inspired by these kids to create The Outsiders, and he became close with S.E. Hinton, and they actually shot in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and he loved working there.
And S.E. Hinton was actually there the whole time. It's not very often that you shoot a film based on a novel where the author is actually present on set the whole time. And
she loved hanging out with the young cast, and she actually portrays a nurse in the hospital. But yeah, and so they decided to collaborate on this, and the cast is just
the cast
insane.
Is one of the most amazing things ever. Like, the amount of money, we're never going to get films like this again. Because the amount of money it would take would be insurmountable to what any studio would want to pay to make a film.
But of course, at this time, most of them were relatively unknown.
And it's crazy to even think about. Well,
but it is funny to think that he had previously worked with Martin Sheen on Apocalypse Now, and now he's working with Emilio. So I'm wondering if they, knew each other before
had
then.
some sort of dialogue before,
but
yeah.
The casting, they pretty much knew right away they wanted C. Thomas Howell to play Ponyboy, but everyone else, according to Ralph Macchio, they all showed up and they didn't know, what they were reading for, and Francis Ford Coppola would kind of make them all get together as a group and read, okay, Emilio, you read this line, and it was a way of getting them to all, interact and
it also
get to know each other.
From a director standpoint, when you have a cast like that, where anyone could play anyone, one of the things you want to do is have them all read, okay, we know for a fact this guy's going to be this one, and we know for a fact this guy, or I'm pretty sure that this guy is going to be this one. So what you do is you have everybody else read every other part and see where they stand out. And he's a smart enough director to go, oh, did you hear Emilio read that? That's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted in the movie. And him, I'm pretty sure they were all sitting doing table reads, and him and S.E. Hinton are sitting next to each other, just oh, there it was. That's what we needed.
But yeah, the cast in this is insane. So first, okay, so this wasn't really a childhood movie for me. This was me more as a teenager with friends, watching the movie because we had crushes on these actors, even though this was a whole
20 years before. Yeah, because this movie's almost 40 years old now.
1983. Yeah. So it came out the year before I was born, but C. Thomas Howell, we were all oh, if only we could go back to the 80s, because
he has these big puppy dog eyes this whole movie. Which is perfect because this character is supposed to be this embodiment of innocence, and he has these big eyes where everything, and he's always kind of looking up. So yeah.
But you've got him as Ponyboy, Patrick Swayze as Daryl.
Patrick Swayze, prime Swayze too. He was young, he was in shape, he had always been a good actor. I've always been a fan of Patrick Swayze, and if you knew me as a young person, there's a reason that Patrick Swayze.
Roadhouse?
Patrick Swayze has pervaded my life as a joke for a long time. It's funny because I was getting my tattoo worked on recently, and my tattoo artist was like, this might suck a little bit because I'm going back over what I already went over last time you were here. And I looked at him and I went, pain don't hurt. And he looked at me and he squinted his eyes and he's like, did you just quote Roadhouse? And I was like, yeah, man. And I told him the whole story about where the name The Cooler came from. So,
then we have Rob Lowe as Soda Pop.
Again, looks fantastic in this movie. He's young. He's got this dark hair.
He's acting.
He's actually acting. He's not just Rob. He's not just doing the Rob Lowe thing where I'm here and I look good. So what's the point of trying?
Or Rob Lowe's career these days is he'll just show up on a comedy show,
he plays
third
himself.
or fourth season.
Right. Well, he also has this habit of I got something in my eye. Playing himself in self-referential roles and meta roles just for the sake that he can just play himself now because he's such a pop culture reference.
Yeah. Diane Lane is Cherry.
Cherry Valance.
Matt Dillon
Dallas.
is Dallas. Emilio Estevez is 2-Bit.
2-Bit, which actually I was writing it incorrectly. When I was writing it in my notes, I'm writing it as words. And then I looked at it in the literal text, and it's actually the number 2-Bit. I did not remember that. And I remember reading this book. I had told her about something that had stuck with me from the book forever, and
And then Tom Cruise is Steve Randall. Very early Tom Cruise.
Who's great in this. He actually, again, Tom Cruise is actually acting in this movie. He's actually doing a character. He's not just playing Tom Cruise in another movie.
Yeah. And then, of course, Ralph Macchio is Johnny.
We kind of glossed over Emilio Estevez playing 2-Bit. Because the 2-Bit character is almost kind of written for him.
Yeah.
He's got this perfect laugh, and he gets to do high and low. There are parts where 2-Bit's this really heartfelt character, and there's other parts where he's absolutely obnoxious and he's loud, and Emilio Estevez does such a good job at walking that line and making this character a person.
Yeah. Tom Waits does show up very briefly, and
Plays
then
Buck.
Yeah, Leif Garrett, who was like a child star in the 70s.
He was a teen
plays
heartthrob.
Bob. Yeah.
Is he's not around anymore, is he?
He was doing like a book tour last year, but he's not looking too great.
Which is a bummer, because he looks really good in this movie. He actually acts really well in this movie. Tom Waits is still around. Flea, the bass player of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, has an extra role in this film as just one of the random socias. And I couldn't believe, once I saw his face in the background, I was like, holy crap, that's definitely him.
Yeah, even young Sofia Coppola shows up in this movie.
Is she like 8 in this movie? That's a sad story.
Oh, man.
Who else? I feel like Essie Hinton shows up as a nurse. I think there are very few roles in this film that are not played by huge names. Because even like Tom Waits being in this movie for 2 seconds, I was like, holy shit, he looks great.
Yeah, he was really young in this. And then, of course, the theme song is performed by Stevie Wonder. The music is something we wanted to touch upon because we were watching the complete novel version on TCM Friday night, and the music is very different. They took out the original score and they added this like surf music to it.
The novel edition is the original score is the problem. And Francis Ford Coppola had, when they showed him the final edited cut of the film, was like, this is kind of over the top. It's a little too much. I kind of want, he even said, I kind of wanted to shoot this film as an homage to late 60s or early 60s, late 50s Hollywood, like the beautiful like golden age Hollywood films, and I wanted one of those scores. And you listen to the score for the complete novel edition, and it's a lot. It's
like this surf music, but it's so like energetic, and the rumble scene.
Wait, it's what?
Energetic?
No, the other thing. What?
I don't know.
It's energetic.
But so like some scenes you're like, okay, yeah, whatever. But then for the rumble where they're leaving and then they're waiting for the socius, and there's just it should be a tense moment, but there's just like
it sounds like what's the name of that song? Tidal wave tsunami.
Yeah. And it kept completely taking me out of the movie and throwing off the tone.
Well, and then in a minute we'll get to this scene where they even them walking out of the house to the spot where the rumble's going to happen.
Yeah.
In the original novel version, it's like this. It's almost like the blasters are playing the score. It's just like damn. But then you watch the theatrical cut, and it is they literally inserted crickets, so that you have that, like, they're celebrating, but you're like, I don't want anybody to get hurt.
Yeah.
And it makes way more sense.
Yeah.
As much as I like, and we were talking about this right before we got on camera, if we could have the complete novel edition with the theatrical score, it would be the perfect movie.
Yeah, because complete novel version, there's also like 3 or 4 Elvis songs. It's just, I don't know, it kept taking me out of it. But it is shot like a classic Hollywood movie because the credits are all like at the beginning
and the
movie.
And the credits roll over a matte painting. Yeah.
Because you came in and you were like, why are we watching the end of the movie?
I was like, dude, did we
and
watch
I was
this?
like,
and
no,
not...
this is how it starts.
Yeah, and it hadn't even dawned on me because it was one of those things where it was, you watch those old Hollywood films and there's this pretty like duochromatic matte painting and then the credits roll up and they're obviously like drawn font credits. Mm-hmm. And it hadn't even dawned on me until I looked at them and I was like, oh, this is supposed to look like old MGM films.
Yeah, because those old movies, when they ended, that was the end. You didn't have like rolling credits or anything. They were all at the very beginning of the movie with like this epic score and stuff.
And this score swells like in the beginning, and then there's one other scene later that I'll really bring up, but the score really ramps up in this very old style orchestral way, and I love it.
But yeah, it's a great movie. It's a hard movie to watch. Sometimes I always get emotional watching it.
Yeah. Especially because, I mean, you have these young actors, and they are young, but they're giving these heart-wrenching performances.
Yeah. And we were noticing scenes that were, like, cut out of, like, the theatrical movie, and then things that were put into the complete novel that just made things make more sense. Like, at the beginning of the movie when Cherry and Ponyboy are talking, or this is when the Socias show up and they're jealous that Cherry and her friend are with Ponyboy and Johnny and Two-Bit. And she tells him, if I see you at school and I don't say hi, don't take it personally. And then in the complete novel, the ending, there's actually a scene at the school where they see each other and she doesn't really acknowledge
there's
him.
kind of like a half smile between the two of them.
Yeah.
And then she turns around and he just kind of nods and goes about
it. It comes around, and then that same scene, a teacher comes out and tells him that he's basically failing, but the teacher understands because everything he's going through. And so the teacher wants him to write a theme for the semester, and that's why the movie starts with Ponyboy writing in his room, because he's writing the story. But those scenes were in the complete novel, and it was just a circle, and it made things make more sense.
Yes. Right off the bat, right after we get out of those beautiful old style credits, we get right into a violent confrontation between Socias and Greasers, where I think it's like 3 Greasers are fighting against a Soch, and then the Soch turns around with a switchblade and backs them all up, and it's right in your face right off the bat. There's no waiting for it, and it's just like showing the small town, which. It's a stylized version of Tulsa, Oklahoma, right at like rural Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it's going through this small town and it's showing us everything as we catch up to our 3 main characters, who are Ponyboy, Johnny, and Dallas. And when a film starts right in with those 3 characters, you are meant to assume that those are your 3 main characters.
Yeah.
Like in the background you see other characters. You don't know if they're going to be like, you see Emilio Estevez and the 2-Bit character just being absolutely drunk and obnoxious. He's being rude and crude to girls sitting in their cars, and he's like trying to fight guys, and he's just kind of wandering around this drive-in theater being a jerk, which is a contrast to what he is like literally 5 minutes later. But it's really cool. That's when we get Bob and Cherry fighting in the car, right?
Because basically he's been making advancements on her that she does not want, and he's drunk and he's not totally understanding. And then we do see that Johnny has a scar on his cheek, and it's because he had been beaten up by a Soch that had rings, and we see that Bob
was wearing two
the guy
large
with the
rings. So Cherry actually comes back, and at old drive-in theaters, like, there was the spot where you would park all your cars, and then there are seats back by the projection, and she sits in those, and she sits right in front of our three main characters, and this is where we see Dallas just being Dallas. Like, he's not a good guy. Dallas is...
Well, he's very troubled. He's been to jail already. He was already involved in, like, a murder. He doesn't understand that things can be good. Like, he always expects bad things to happen. He doesn't handle bad news well at all.
And which we see multiple times in the film. Just a little bit of bad news.
Yeah, he hasn't had, the greatest things happen to him in life, so he doesn't handle his emotions well or anything. He's just on the edge all the time, and he scares a lot of the other characters, just because of how reckless he is.
Well, not only is he reckless, he's aggressive. Like, it's one of those things where, like, when you don't realize how fast someone can become confrontational, it can take you off guard, and we see the character use that to his advantage multiple times in the movie, where he gets aggressive fast, and you watch other characters, like, back off what they were saying. It's kind of interesting.
But then the only person who really stands up to him initially is Johnny, when Johnny's telling him to back off of Cherry, and then Dallas is getting confrontational with him, and Johnny's nervous, but
Johnny kind of stands his ground there, and I feel like this young Ralph Macchio is perfect for the Johnny character, because physically he's tiny.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure he was in his 20s already when they filmed this, but he looks... he always had that baby face.
Well, he also has a very slight frame.
Yeah.
He's not... I mean, even now as an adult, I mean... He's muscular now, but when he was young, he was skinny, and he was small. He didn't have very wide shoulders.
Yeah.
And the scene of him, like, standing up to Dallas, and he's scared, but he's standing his ground on, leave her alone. It's pretty cool. We get a short conversation here, which builds the relationship between Ponyboy and Cherry.
But even though she's bothered by Dallas, she's still, like, she makes a comment, like, I hope I never see Dallas again. I just might fall in love with him. Like, it's a weird, like, oh, the bad boy kind of attraction, but...
Yep. Dallas isn't just a problem for some people. He's a problem for everyone. I don't think there's a single character in the entire movie that actually doesn't have a moment with him.
Even other greasers, because like
Tim
or Tom.
Tim is the leader of a gang of greasers. So we have the group of greasers that hang out with the Curtis brothers, and then there's actually another group of greasers that is an actual gang that Tim runs.
Yeah,
with his partner Curly.
In the complete novel, there's actually a few additional scenes with Tim.
He comes up to the door of the Curtis house once.
No,
and
he stays the night there too.
There's a lot more with the Tim.
But basically, Dallas slashed his tires, so he doesn't he'll go after anyone. It doesn't matter.
Yep. It's established that the rich kids live on the south side of the town, and the poorer people live on the north side of the town, and it's the actual pieces of the actual social pieces, the workings of the town itself are right in the middle. So you have these two groups constantly right in each other's bubble, and that's where you get this conflict.
And then the Curtis brothers, their parents were killed in a car accident, which
is told in this really cool flashback. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot of the camera work in this movie is just, I don't know, it's a beautiful movie. But, so basically Daryl, he's the oldest brother. He's taking care of Soda Pop and Ponyboy because they keep saying, like, oh, you can't call the cops or, like, go to the hospital because they'll put you guys in a boys' home because they're both, like, underage. And Soda Pop is a dropout because he's also got a job to help support the family. So he and Steve Randall work at the gas station.
Right. And Steve's shown to be, Steve, played by Tom Cruise, is actually kind of shown to be a loose cannon, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's shown on a couple occasions to be, like, he wants to go to work all week and then throw a party and everybody get wasted at his house.
Mm-hmm.
But he's young enough to the point where the Daryl character will look at him and go, and how are you going to fund this? Like, where's the money for that party going to come from? Are you going to pay for it? And I, and not just because it's Patrick Swayze, really like the advent of the Daryl character. Because, yeah, he is a greaser and he's involved in all the same stuff as everybody else. But he's also older. Mm-hmm. He's an adult already. He's seen the bad things and he looks at his life as a series of responsibilities now. Mm-hmm. But it weighs on him. And that shows in different ways, especially with how he treats Ponyboy. The acting between Patrick Swayze and C. Thomas Howell is great. Mm-hmm. Like, they actually, in the theatrical version, they cut that fight at the dinner table way short, too. Mm-hmm. The fight at the dinner table in the novel version is much longer than it is in the theatrical version. Well, you don't got to turn away from the camera to take a drink.
I'm, like, coughing, though, so...
How far are we? Yeah. Leaf Garrett looks green, blah, blah, blah. I'm just kind of hopping through my notes here.
I didn't take any notes because I pretty much have it all memorized.
The Inciting Incident is after the drive-in stuff. The Leaf Garrett character, played by Bob, gets his buddies together, and they chase down Johnny and Ponyboy, and they try to drown Ponyboy in a fountain, but Johnny stabs him to death with a switchblade.
Yeah.
So that is where we go from, all right, their life is already bad, to now it's all much worse. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, then they go to Dallas for help, and since he's been through this before,
Dallas lives in a crash pad on top of a non-licensed bar. Yeah. It's not like a real bar, but there's a party going on because it's like a house, but it's also a bar. It's got like neon signs all over it, and he just lives upstairs in one of the bedrooms.
Yeah. And basically, there's like a party going on there, and then you see a dog going down the stairs.
There's just a random dog going down the stairs.
But basically, they go to him for help, and he knows a hideout, and he knows what train they need to get on, and he gives them a gun. So they leave town, and they go stay in this abandoned church, and Dallas tells them, when you first get there, buy a week's worth of food before the story gets out. And then Johnny also buys peroxide, so they bleach Ponyboy's hair, and they cut each other's hair, and they're basically like hiding out in this abandoned church for a week.
And this is where we get like some of the absolute best parts of the movie, just classic Coppola shots. These upward like silhouette shots of them against the sun, the sun rising, and these really dreamlike shots of them talking and having this is where we get the real context behind Ponyboy being like understanding literature so much and appreciating the beauty of nature. And then this is where we also get the Stay Gold speech from Ralph Macchio,
Yeah.
Which is...
Because their friendship, like, Johnny is older. He's older than him by 2 years, but Ponyboy is always teaching him new things. Like, he makes a comment like, I never used to look at the clouds before you told me. And Ponyboy recites this Robert Frost poem, and he's like, I always remembered it because I never understood what he meant. And then by the end of the movie, we realize Johnny interprets it like because Ponyboy has helped to, like, expand his horizons too, and they have this really deep, meaningful friendship, and they have really good chemistry.
The chemistry between these two actors is one of those really unmatched things. Like, you can't...
I wish they could have acted in other things. That would have been cool to see.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had really good chemistry, and it's very touching, and I'm trying not to get emotional.
I actually
right
am
now.
too, thinking about it, because it's so good. Like, and you can chalk it up to them being friends in real life. You can chalk it up to Francis Ford Coppola being such a good director. But I feel like there's so many pieces of this movie that just came together perfectly. Which, by the way, when they're cutting each other's hair, they do it with the switchblade, and them just giving each other shit while they're cutting each other's is a really fun thing to watch. Where am I? Okay, so this is where
So then they're basically there for a week, and
in the church, it really emphasizes that they're both kids, because they're like, we say that Ponyboy is 14 and Johnny is 16, but it shows that Ponyboy's really, because they're sleeping in an abandoned church, and they show this cute little raccoon just kind of looking, because it shows them just kind of tossing their food around and stuff. There's a raccoon trying to get in their food, and he wakes up and says, Johnny, there's a monster outside.
Because it's like scratching at the windows and stuff like that.
And they're still babies.
Yeah.
And this is also where we get the advent of the Gone with the Wind, the copy of Gone with the Wind. That is a through line, because Ponyboy loves literature so much. So
because they had gone to see it together at the drive-in, and so Johnny gets him a copy of this book, because he's like, I figure that's a way we can pass time. You can read it out loud to me. So basically, like, the week passes by, and then Dallas finds them, and he takes them out to get food, and basically
the conflict here happens when there's a conversation between Johnny and Dallas, and he says, like, look, the right thing to do here would be to, I don't have a problem turning myself in, because they say Cherry will testify on my behalf. So yeah, I might do a little time, but it was self-defense. Everybody knows it's self-defense in town, so I can go back.
And also, he doesn't want Ponyboy to be involved, and for his brothers to continue worrying about him, because Soda Pop also wrote him a letter asking them to come back and turn themselves in. So, yeah, Johnny's like, I'll give your gun back to you so no one knows, like, no one can trace you back to this.
Right. And Dallas throws a fit.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like a spoiled little child fit.
Because he's like, I don't want you to become mean in jail like I did. He says, even if you spend just a few months in jail, it's going to completely change you as a person, and I don't want to see that happen to you. So there are these moments where you see how much he cares about them, because Johnny's like, have my parents asked about me? And he's like, no, but we're worried about you. Like, we're the ones that care about you. And so he's driving them back, and this is where we see that the church is on fire, possibly from one of Johnny's cigarettes.
Well, one of the things about this movie is that it takes place sometime in the mid-50s, the ambiguous mid-50s. And everybody was smoking. They show everybody smokes in this. Like, and not just like cigarettes like we think of. It's basically tobacco just rolled up in loose paper.
Because there's a scene where Ponyboy is reading to him and Johnny is falling asleep and he has a lit cigarette and it just drops down and Ponyboy is like, watch your smokes.
Yeah. Which actually, the fire might have come from right before they leave. You see Dallas asks specifically Johnny for a cancer stick, and then he takes 2 hits of it, and as they're walking out, he just kind of flicks it, which could be the inciting incident for the fire, because, and Coppola is needy like that. Like, I can see Francis Ford Coppola sitting there and saying, well, in the book, it's kind of left up to interpretation, but I don't do that. I need something small. I just need something small in there, so there's a seed of where this fire might have come from, because it didn't come from anywhere. It didn't come from nowhere, you know? And I can just see him needing to be able to put a reason for this fire. And it's huge. And there are school kids there who were on a field trip looking at this old abandoned church. And they're stuck in there now.
Yeah.
So there's a teacher. There's 2 teachers outside.
And they're like, some of the kids are missing. And then Ponyboy, without hesitation, gets out of the car, and Johnny and Dallas are yelling at him to come back, because this could draw more attention to them too. And then, of course, Johnny runs after Ponyboy to help him, and
Dallas is screaming at him about how dumb they are from the car.
Yeah.
These kids don't care about you. I think the line that really sticks with me is, these kids don't care about you. And it's just such a powerful line.
So then those 2 are in the church helping the kids get out, and then Dallas is like, oh God. So he goes and he starts
There's a fly!
I know. He starts helping to carry kids out as well.
Which, okay, there's 2 things about this scene in the church that I really want to point out. One, they really hit C. Thomas Howell with a burning stick at some point. Because you watch you can tell that they're like, all right, the stick's going to fall and it's going to hit you and you need to fall over. But it's a real burning stick that just swings down and hits him and he goes, ow! And you see him look at it like, oh! And then there's another scene where Ralph Macchio goes to pick up this little girl actress and she bites the shit out of him.
I thought she bites Ponyboy.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Because he's like, ow! What?
And then Dallas is pulling Ponyboy out and his arm is on fire, and then Johnny is stuck in the building, and Dallas is helping to...
Oh, well, Dallas actually jumps into the church to try to get Johnny out.
Yeah, but he's first...
he puts out Ponyboy's
yeah,
arm.
And he's like, you stupid kid, and stuff like that. And then you hear Johnny screaming because a board, fell down on him. And...
the church actually falls down on Dallas and Johnny.
Yeah. And so... Yeah, they go to the hospital.
He wakes up. In the ambulance he wakes up, and the male teacher is in the thing with him, and he goes, "What are you guys? Some kind of are you heroes? Some kind of superheroes?" And he goes, "No, man, we're greasers." And the teacher's like, "No, seriously, cut it out." And he's like, "No, really, you'll see once we get to the hospital.
Once we get back to town."
Yeah.
So they get back, and Johnny is pretty much paralyzed from the waist down, and he has really bad burns.
He can't talk for very long.
Yeah, he's lying face first down when they first go to see him, and
he has a head support, or an old style head support. It's basically just like a cloth wrap supporting the weight of his head, and then he's looking down at the rest of the table. I don't know how Ralph Macchio did it, but there are consistently tears falling out of his eyes the whole time.
Yeah.
It's hard to talk about.
He has burns all over his throat.
And they don't show his back.
Yeah, no.
Which, thank God.
You kind of see his arms a little bit, but...
Ponyboy is just covered in soot. The makeup they did on C. Thomas Howell, because the first time you see him, he's sitting on this bench next to the male teacher, and he's got a cigarette in his mouth, but he's completely blackened, and he's just like, it almost reminds me of the smoking guy in the waiting room in Beetlejuice.
Uh-huh.
How he's just like black, but he's still smoking.
It's so funny too because another great movie with C. Thomas Howell, if you've never seen it, is The Hitcher, and I think there's kind of a similar shot in that as well. But yeah, so they're basically, he's in the waiting room. Is he still with the teacher?
Yeah.
And yeah, the teacher's basically telling him like they're heroes. And
well, in that part, he's telling him he should quit smoking.
Oh yeah.
He's like, you're kind of young to smoke as much as you do.
And then Soda Pop and Daryl show up, and it's
after they go see Johnny, Dallas and
because Dallas is also in another room.
So this is where we first see the like a real interaction between the three Curtis brothers, and Patrick Swayze just chews the scene. And every time, we've watched it twice in the past 2 days, and each time you just notice him like, okay, he sees Soda Pop played by Rob Lowe, and he goes over and he gives him a hug, and he's like, hey man, you're a hero. But then Patrick Swayze gets there, and he grabs these two, and he's really crying, and he grabs Rob Lowe and he grabs C. Thomas Howell, and he's holding them tight, like this is
like
real.
You can see his muscles like flexing.
Like this is real for him, and it is you can tell it's an established actor who really knows what he's doing, drawing these two younger actors into this emotional scene with him, and it's so cool to watch.
I just realized we haven't had the pictures going.
Oh.
We've got a lot of pictures from this movie.
I'll fix it.
Yeah. So yeah, Johnny is basically just in a lot of pain. And there is a scene that was in the complete novel that I don't believe was in the theatrical cut when Johnny's mom shows up to the hospital and she's like, I want to see him. And basically Emilio Estevez is like yelling at her. He's like, you never cared about him. We're the ones that care about him. Like it's, I think the only like really emotional scene that he has, but it wasn't in the theatrical version.
It is. It is.
I don't remember it.
It happens when they see the nurse comes in, played by Essie Hinton, and she says, your mom's here to talk to you. And he goes, I don't want to talk to her.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And that is where the nurse comes out, and you hear the mom yelling, what do you mean I can't go see him, blah, blah, blah. And he joins this, that's where Two-Bit joins the nurse in telling her to go away. And he's like, you're always drunk. I bet you're drunk right now. He doesn't want to see you. Why do you even care anyway? Like, he really, he lays into her.
So that was in the theatrical cut? Okay. So yeah, then,
oh, there's that dreamlike picture. Oh, yeah. I like that Tom Cruise because it's like, it's before he got his teeth fixed so perfectly, and he's kind of muscular, but he's not like roided out like he is now. Like it's a bummer. All right, we're not gonna go into that though. Where were we? Okay. So Two-Bit tells the mom to go away, and then this is where we wake up with Ponyboy the next morning in the house, and he's kind of making breakfast, and this is where we get like awesome work by Tom Cruise and Emilio Estevez coming in.
Before that, he wakes up, and in the complete novel, he wakes up and Tim is there on the couch. And
that's what it was.
He's like, oh yeah, like
thanks for letting me crash, man.
Thanks for letting me crash. And then Ponyboy's like, do you want something to drink? Do you want breakfast? And he just kind of gets up and
no,
leaves.
He says, no, tell your brother I said thanks. Yeah. And he just leaves. That's another thing we forgot is in the church, in the complete novel edition, he kind of has a dream in the middle of the night while they're sleeping that he's looking up at different rooms of the church.
Yeah.
And he's seeing his brothers doing different things.
Yeah.
And that makes that whole church thing really emotional.
Yeah.
Which is why we wish we could get, like, an ultimate edition of this film. And then we get Steve and 2-Bit showing up to the house, and here's Tom Cruise and Emilio Estevez chewing this movie. I love it. I love it. They're loud. They pick him up. He's got eggs in a pan. Emilio Estevez picks him up, and you watch these eggs just fly all over the room. Tom Cruise sticks his hand into a chocolate cake and just starts, like, hand-eating chocolate cake.
I wonder who made that chocolate cake.
I guarantee you it was Daryl.
I'm trying to imagine, like,
just
scene of him
just Patrick
making
Swayze nicely
cake.
frosting this
thing.
Oh, it's so good.
But and they basically have to go to work. Soda Pop's in the shower.
Yeah, he comes out of the shower and because Steve hits him in the face with chocolate cake as soon as he opens the door.
Yeah, and
hey Daryl, have you seen my work shirt? This is probably my favorite part of the movie. Is where it's just them in this in their domestic environment in this house, and how the dynamics work, and like it actually shows Daryl being conscientious towards how Ponyboy feels.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, I shouldn't go to work today. I should stay here with you. And Ponyboy's like, no, I've spent a lot of time alone. And then 2-Bit is like, or no, was it Steve that's like, oh, 2-Bit will babysit him?
No,
he's like, I'll babysit him.
Because he takes him down, puts him in a headlock.
Yeah.
And they're playing this,
all,
like, he's yelling, play uncle.
He needs to find a job because he's the only one that doesn't have a job.
The end of this scene is one of the funniest parts of the movie because Emilio Estevez takes the whole plate with the cake on it, and he's got a beer where there's a piece cut out of the cake. He puts a beer where the piece is cut out of the cake, and he sits down in front of the TV with just a giant chocolate cake and a Budweiser.
Yeah.
It's great.
And then it shows them walking down the street, and they're trying to hitchhike because the brakes went out on his car.
I feel like this is just Emilio Estevez vamping, too. Because he's telling jokes about greasers being greasy. He's telling jokes about girls. Yeah. I feel like this is... look, we have to explain that you guys are hitchhiking to get to this restaurant. Emilio, just kind of, see what you can do. And it's just Emilio Estevez, he goes, and it's nonstop. And I really think this is it really looks like him just being the character. I love it.
And I just love the shot because they're facing the other way, and then you see the car with the socias, and it just shows the car in the distance, and then the shot is on their feet, and their feet just turn
it's like them,
the other way.
Yeah, it's like them from like their waistline down.
Yeah. Just shots like that. Just, oh my gosh.
There's a couple really cool like split diameter diopters.
Yeah.
And then like this is he talks to the one Soch, Randy.
Yeah.
Who is over it. He's over it. This is all stupid. I don't see you as a greaser. Bob stepped over the line.
He's basically like, why did you save those kids? I wouldn't have done it. And then Ponyboy's like, you might have.
Right,
you
weren't there.
In that situation that basically this guy lost his friend for a really stupid, nonsensical reason.
Right, and the other guy lost his friend for something that was not.
Yeah.
Because Randy even references, your friend could die.
Yeah.
And it ends on an amicable note, even like to the point where, and the whole time they're having this really nice conversation, Emilio Estevez's 2-Bit character is just roasting the shit out of the other Soches. Like he's just making fun of everything about him. But it ends with C. Thomas Howell's character saying, oh, what did Super Soch... Like, Emilio Estevez says, what did Super Soch want? He goes, he's not a Soch. Mm-hmm. He's just a guy who wanted to talk.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
And then,
it's
yeah,
really
because 2-Bit doesn't try to argue with him or, like, make fun of him for saying that or anything. It's just like, okay, bye. See you guys later. See you at the Rumble.
Yep, this is the first time we hear about the Rumble.
I think it had been mentioned, like, very briefly in a different scene by Dallas that Tim had wanted this Rumble to happen. Because basically, I think we missed the part where Dallas is in the hospital and he's asking
this is right now.
Okay, he's asking how Johnny is, and they're like...
Do it for Johnny, man!
Oh, yeah.
And which is, it's probably the second most famous line of the whole movie.
Yeah.
And it's just, Matt Dillon, God, he was so good. Oh, it's so good. They're in the hospital and they're talking to Dallas about the Rumble. Mm-hmm. And he's like, we'll whip him, but we got to do it for John. Like, he's trying to give himself a reason.
Yeah.
Because he's more worked up about it than the people that are there talking to him. Mm-hmm. And this is where they're at the house getting ready for the Rumble. They all have just fantastic denim jackets on. It's all denim jackets and like slim cut jeans and Chuck Taylors, and I am here for it.
Yeah. And Daryl basically doesn't want Ponyboy to go.
He's like, you look like you've been tense.
Yeah.
Like, you don't look like you've been doing too good. And they all stick up for him because they want Ponyboy to, feel like a man. They don't want to emasculate him to himself, And this is the scene that we were talking when they leave. Because in the book it said, God, I'm trying to remember, Daryl learned acrobatics at some point in his life.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that's referenced in the book. And he taught everyone else. Which makes sense if you talk about it, but they don't say it at all in the movie because we have 2-Bit doing like single bar stuff, flipping over the fence. We have Daryl like hopping the fence and doing like pommel horse stuff. Mm-hmm. And then Steve jumps up on the car and does a backflip, and you're like, part of you, if you have never read the book, goes, where did they get that from?
Yeah.
But also, this is where we talk about where they literally inserted cricket, so it's this like very tense. It's so quiet.
But they're screaming and they're getting themselves amped up.
Tom Cruise does this really cool thing with a beer. Tom Cruise does the professional wrestling thing where he takes a big drink of the beer and then he gets a bunch more and sprays it up into the air.
And then he makes a comment like no one in the neighborhood is gonna call the police because they know better.
Well,
no one's gonna call the fuzz because they know better.
Well, it's not that I don't think he means that they know better. It's just that it's the slums. Nobody's gonna call the police.
Yeah, exactly.
Then this is where we get the Rummy. They meet up with Tim and the other greasers. Mm-hmm. And then there's a moment between Patrick Swayze and the character who's playing the leader of the Socs, because we don't really get any story. Oh, that's such a good picture of Ralph Macchio. Any story around the Socs. They're kind of depicted as animals most of the time. But there's one humanizing moment, and it's right here. And it's where Daryl and the leader of the Socs, they kind of greet each other. There's almost a little handshake. And 2-Bit's like, what's going on there? And they used to play football together. They used to be pals.
It makes you wonder how, if their parents were still alive, if they would have been on the other side. Yeah. Because maybe they used to be.
Right. Maybe the only reason they're poor is because they don't have their parents.
Yeah.
And this is where we get this really cool Rumble, and it's shot so intelligently. We're an hour into the show. But
these scene again segments, maybe I
we
don't know.
might have to start making it its own show.
Like a lot more fun with them than we anticipated.
Yeah,
so.
we might have to do 2 episodes a week,
Yeah.
and one will just be seen again because this is the second time where we're like, oh no, we've been talking about just this segment for over an hour.
Oh my gosh, especially next week when we do the Witches of Eastwick.
Oh, that's all you. This will be my first time watching this movie.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you. But I actually haven't seen it since I was, like, really young either, so I'm very excited. But, yeah.
Okay, so it's shot intelligent. These shots are really cool because while it's showing this, like, it purposefully uses some kinds of symbolism because in these shots of these kids punching each other, there's this raging fire in the background, but it's raining. Mm-hmm. So they're fighting, and this is where you get a couple shots of Baby Flea. Just getting punched in the face. But, like, and especially, like, when you see, like, because the way the Rumble starts is Dallas is running in.
Oh, yeah, he kind of shows up out of nowhere.
He shows up out of last minute and goes, you guys aren't starting this without me.
Yeah, like, he just
and then the first thing,
hospital.
Yup, he's still putting his clothes on.
Yeah.
And then somebody punches Ponyboy in the face.
Yeah, Ponyboy, poor Ponyboy.
He gets beat up the whole
on the
Rumble.
ground the whole time.
But he doesn't give up. That's what matters. And they show Steve kicking ass. They show Daryl kicking ass. Mm-hmm. And there's just Ponyboy just getting punched on the ground over and over.
Yeah.
But there are shots like when Tom Cruise picks his arms up like this and the fire is right behind him and it's this it's almost like sinister. Yeah. It's like the evils of everything that we're looking at personified. There's another part where there's a greaser holding a Sosha's head and he's just beating it into the ground. And you don't expect the amount of brutality that's in this scene. Mm-hmm. And then they win. The Soshas run away. Yeah. And the orchestral core, the score goes bananas right here. It's big. There's horn sections and drum sections, and it's awesome. And you cannot find the score on Spotify, by the way.
It's so crazy because no one gets like seriously or fatally hurt because that early scene with Randall and Ponyboy in the car, Randall's like, someone could die tonight. Like, someone else could die. And then it just...
Well, they talk about it again in the house because Daryl says, I don't want you to get hurt. And Soda Pop says, nobody gets hurt. It's only skin on skin. There's no weapons around.
Yeah, this one
they've established there's no weapons.
Yeah.
So that's
I wonder if that was like... Bob's death was kind of like, on everyone's minds there.
We're going to have to speed this up a little bit.
I
know. Which sucks because everything from here on out is so significant. Mm-hmm. But they leave the Rumble. They get stopped by a cop. There's a cool little scene. Matt Dillon gives a really cool sucker. They get to the hospital. Hardest scene of the movie to watch.
Oh yeah.
Is Johnny passing.
Yeah.
They tell him that they won the Rumble and he's like, so what? That's fighting is the dumbest. Yeah. I don't care. And then this is where he tells Ponyboy to stay gold as he's passing away. Yeah. And this is where Dallas loses it.
Yep.
He's done. He's done with it.
Because he's like, you did something good and you still died. Like, what's the point of doing anything good? And he has this gun that is not loaded. And he doesn't
even have any bullets for it.
Yeah, he's aiming it at the hospital workers. And he's like, why do you bother helping people? It doesn't do anything good. So he
robs a store.
Loses it.
He robs a liquor store. And he runs away. In the meantime of him robbing the liquor store, Ponyboy goes home and tells everybody that Dallas is lost. We have to find him before he hurts someone else or himself. Yeah. And they find him just in time to watch the police kill him.
Because he had actually been shot by the store owner when he was leaving. You don't realize it at first until after he calls Daryl and he had been leaning on these, like...
What you're talking about is only in the novel version. Where he makes a call to Daryl.
They didn't have that?
It's not in the theatrical version. It's not.
I could have sworn I always remembered that part.
It's not in it.
Oh, wow.
So he calls Daryl. In the novel version, he calls Daryl, and he's leaning on, like, some boxes.
Yeah.
And then he stands up, and there's blood there. Not in the theatrical version.
Oh, I could have sworn
I was
always
taking
remembered
notes.
that.
I was taking notes while she was in here getting the picture packet. The picture package. There it is. Together. And, nope, it's not there.
I always figured that's why he just goes, for the full suicide. Because
Ponyboy goes home.
Yeah.
And Ponyboy goes home, tells him what's going on. Next thing we know, it's him getting shot by the police.
Yeah.
There's nothing in between.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, hey, whoever is cutting this movie, does MGM still own this? Because, like, give us the ultimate version of this film. Give us the complete edition of this film.
With the original score, not the surf rock music.
Well, the Coppola score... The novel cut. And just put those two things together.
Yeah.
They watch Daryl get murdered by the police.
Yeah.
Which, it's suicide by cop. Okay? Mm-hmm. He does it on purpose.
Yeah.
This is where he reads... Oh, wait. No. This is where, in the novel version, we go to the scene at the school right after Daryl dies, or right after Dallas dies. There's a little exchange of looks between him and Cherry. Little smile. They turn away from each other. A teacher says, you missed a lot of school. Understandable circumstances. Mm-hmm. If you write me an essay of personal experience, I'll pass you with a C. Mm-hmm. In the theatrical version, that does not happen, and it takes context away from everything else that happens after this.
Yeah.
So he goes home, he reads this beautiful letter that Ralph Macchio reads. Sucks to talk about him tearing up.
He had it tucked into the copy of Gone with the Wind. And basically it's him, like...
If he would have realized...
interpreting the poem.
Well, also, he's telling him to tell Dallas things...
Yeah.
So if he'd have realized that the letter was in there the day before, Dallas might still be alive.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But basically, he says it was worth it to give his own life for the lives of the children. And...
this is where we get more about staying gold.
Yeah.
Understanding what it means, which he says, why don't you try to use that to help Dallas, is the whole point of the letter. Mm-hmm. He's never seen, you showed me these things, why don't you show him those things, and maybe he'll feel better. And it's just a little too late. And so that letter inspires him to start writing, and what we can assume is that the whole story that we've watched has been told from the memory of Ponyboy. Mm-hmm. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, we're hour and 15 minutes into a 2-hour show.
Should we skip a segment this week? No?
No. We'll speed it up a little bit.
Okay.
We might have to... Well, I mean, I thought that there was going to be... You have a lot more about our themes to be heard. But I don't think... That's all I have.
I think I have more of, like, the making of it and the controversy of it.
Well, that'll go fast.
Yeah.
So, up next, I'll change the slideshow.
So, this week's Themes to Be Heard segment is devoted to Madonna's 1989 single and music video, Like a Prayer. A very controversial music video. I believe this was her 7th song to be on the Billboard Top 100, and it was #1 for 3 weeks. So a little background about this. This song was written by Madonna and Patrick Leonard. She was at a point in her career where she now had like 2 consecutive #1 albums and sold out tours, and
So we had Like a Virgin and True Blue before this, right?
Yeah.
That True Blue album is probably my favorite Madonna album.
Yeah, me too. I think that's my favorite era of her. That's when she was married to Sean Penn too, which I know that didn't end great, but like musically too, I think that's like my favorite and my favorite like image of her.
Yes.
But at this point in her career, she wanted to cater more to her adult audience, and she wanted to really step up her songwriting.
Well, her teen audience was growing up.
Yeah, exactly.
She was staying in touch with her audience, yeah.
And she knew that people wanted to see like a more adult version of her, so artistically and personally, she just wanted to really grow as an artist. So she wrote this song that was kind of about a young girl's relationship with God, basically a young girl feeling in love with God, and that God is the only paternal figure, male figure in her life. Because Madonna was raised like in a Catholic family, and
3 blocks from where we're sitting, by the way.
yeah,
Madonna was raised
from Bay City.
3 blocks that way, and I can actually show you the house.
Yeah, my my great aunt went to school with Madonna's mom, and when she was still alive, one time she drove us past Madonna's childhood home.
We drive by it every day.
Yeah.
There's also, again, later on, hopefully we have more viewers on YouTube someday. If you watch this, just make sure, if you find our Instagrams and stuff, in Bay City, there is this giant, really cool Madonna mural in Bay City that we absolutely love.
Yeah. So yeah, at this point in her career, she wanted to cater more to her adult audience, and so while they were making this music video, by the way, was directed by Mary Lambert. Now, Mary Lambert previously directed the Like a Virgin video, the Material Girl video, the Borderline video. She also directed videos by the Go-Go's.
Did she set up the tripod for the holiday video where it's just them?
No. She directed the Glamorous Life music video by Sheila E. Control and Nasty by Janet Jackson. Videos by Bobby Brown and Motley Crue. She is mostly known for the Like a Prayer video and for directing Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
Which some of the camera work.
I forgot that, and I was doing a Pet Sematary impression all day today.
Yeah. But it's kind of crazy because some of the camera work in Like a Prayer is used in Pet Sematary.
I agree.
But so while they were making this video, she and Mary Lambert would get together and listen to the song repeatedly, and Madonna wanted to create something that was more provocative than anything she had ever done before. She definitely wanted to have like an interracial relationship portrayed, and like all of the religious aspects, since this was written about a young girl who was in love with God. And then Mary Lambert also wanted to incorporate like elements of ecstasy and stuff like that.
So whose idea was the anti-racist imagery, like adding such racist imagery as a way of fighting it? Like,
I think that was them together, because initially Madonna was seeing like a young girl lusting after like someone on stage or something, I think, and then they just repeatedly kept listening to the song, and I think they eventually like came to what you see here. But while they were making the video, since Madonna was so big at the time, Pepsi wanted to get involved, and Pepsi was supposed to sponsor her next world tour, and they basically came up with a $5 million sponsorship contract, and they created a commercial with Madonna that was going to debut the single, and you can view the actual commercial like on YouTube and stuff. It's called Make-A-Wish, and basically the commercial is Madonna watching childhood videos of herself, like one of her early birthday parties, like seeing herself as this young girl that had these dreams, and it's like her and her younger self in the video are aware of each other, and they kind of swap places. So her younger self comes into the future and sees like everything that she's accomplished, and then Madonna goes back in time, like her adult self goes back in time, and she's, you know, singing the song, and everyone's like dancing in a theater, and she goes back to her school, and then there is a church like scene, and it might be all the same like choir people that were in the music video as well, but it was a 2-minute commercial. It initially aired during the Cosby Show, because the Cosby Show was very popular at that time, and there was nothing like offensive about the commercial or anything. The music video dropped the very next day. It was supposed to have this big debut during Entertainment Tonight, and then the officials watched the video and they were like, oh, burning crosses,
Black Jesus.
Yeah, and they were like, oh, we might have to cut bits of this, like, and then just show it during the end credits, and they kept watching the video, and they were like, oh, I don't know how we're gonna do this. And so it was shown later, and there was an instant uproar, like the Vatican condemned it, because of, they said it was like blasphemous religious imagery, and then people started to boycott Pepsi products. What's going on?
He's being obnoxious. Back up, you silly. Come here. Over here. Over here. There.
And so immediately Pepsi like pulled the plug on this ad because people were starting to boycott them. They canceled the sponsorship contract with Madonna. Allegedly, they let her keep the money, though.
Well, I mean, if they pull it due to something other than the ad itself,
yeah,
they're the ones breaching contract.
Yeah, so basically the commercial was banned. You can view it now on, like, YouTube, or just Google it, and it'll be right there, but... yeah, this, I was like 4 years old when this came out, so I don't remember all of this, but I do remember loving this song when I was a kid, and I don't think I ever really understood what it was about, but it was a popular song for like a very long time.
I grew up in a house where MTV was the new cool thing.
Yeah.
And I even had younger parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I had younger parents, and I had an aunt and uncle that lived in the house with me that were of the MTV generation. So yes, I was very aware of this video. I was very aware of, actually, this whole album.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't remember, like, specifics, because I was very young. But I do remember this being a thing in the house. Like, I remember that house, and I remember seeing this video on TV specifically when I was young.
Yeah, so MTV initially would only play it like after hours, but then even growing up, I remember seeing it on like pop-up video, and I always liked the video, and I never really understood it. Like, I never knew the controversy behind it until I was a little bit older. Madonna was like everything when we were kids. I loved Madonna.
What was the age of like transcendent superstars, which you're not going to get anymore.
Yeah.
People like Madonna and Michael Jackson, that you're not going to get stars that big ever again.
Because I think not long after this, so I loved the movie Dick Tracy when I was a kid, and
I have it on
think
VHS.
The album I'm Breathless for that movie, I think that was like my first cassette tape ever. My mom got it for me. Cause that had Vogue on it, and I don't think that was that long after. Yeah, Vogue was on.
The Dick Tracy?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah. So
I can imagine like all the songs that Breathless sings, but Vogue? Because her name, the name. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
It's not in the movie.
Not in the movie, but
so why is it on the soundtrack? Like,
I don't know.
Madonna's character in Dick Tracy's name is Breathless Mahoney.
Yes.
Just so you know why we keep saying Breathless. But she has one song. Oh, what's it called? She has the one song called...
yes, the album I'm Breathless, 1990.
That's weird.
Not really. But, so
Okay.
yeah.
Carrying on.
I totally forgot what I was saying, but I think the video, I never saw anything offensive about it. I think parts of it just used to confuse me, like the girl that gets murdered in the video. Mm-hmm. I used to think it was Madonna because both of them have that curly hair.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, is she a ghost? Is she like watching this happen to herself? And I never knew that. I never really paid attention that the lady actually died. I don't know. I just saw her as like being attacked. But
there's like a little throwaway spot of the guys like tossing her.
Well, when it does show her like watching it now, you see like, oh, she has a stab wound. But I guess that never really filtered my mind as a young kid. But the actor in the video, Leon, like I always knew him from like Cool Runnings and
he is an actor. He's been in a ton of cool stuff.
Yeah.
Leon, who plays Black Jesus in this, just plays. He's everything you see him in. He's either funny or he's emotional, and I don't know why he wasn't a bigger star. I think he was a really big star in Europe. He was just never a big star in America for some reason.
But yeah, basically there's themes of like racism and divinity and female empowerment in this video.
Dancing in front of a field of burning crosses. There's, a field. Not one, like 6.
Yeah. But see, that shot right there, that's very Pet Sematary-like.
How everything almost looks like distorted.
Yeah. But I always thought she looked stunning in this video, too.
It's a look you don't see her use twice.
Because it's her natural hair color.
You don't see her look like this in any other video.
Yeah.
She doesn't do this look again, ever.
Yeah.
Which is a weird thing because most of the time her albums had like motifs where she would look not exactly the same but similar until she started doing things for the next album. Because Like a Virgin, there was always like big bows and the bangles and the spandex. And then you get to True Blue and she cut her hair really short and it's blonde and she's dressed very debonair. Here, this is the only time we see this look.
Yeah, because I think even after this, she cut her hair really short again because I used to think that Cherish was off of True Blue because she went back to that short blonde hair for Cherish, the music video where she's like in the water with the mermaids. Really?
I mean, I guess I'd have to see it again.
But yeah, I think I used to think that was off of True Blue because she went back to that.
I thought it was.
Look, and even it just showed a shot from the Pepsi commercial, but she had that blonde
like streak
in her hair.
Like that.
Yes. But Yeah, so basically this music video, she sees a woman getting murdered, and Leon comes in to help, and instead he gets accused and gets arrested. And it's like she's trying to find the strength to do the right thing, because even when she's watching him getting arrested, one of the guys is in the corner,
watching her. Yeah,
coming off
it's
as
almost
threatening.
threatened. Yeah.
So I feel like the video is her.
I'm glad she's standing there, because that's not DCMA friendly. That's not TOS friendly. Hey, Twitch, oh no, Twitch, don't ban us.
Just take it off then.
No, I'm just joking.
But
hellos.
Yeah, so she goes to church, and there's a statue of the guy. Well, she's seeing him.
There's a statue of Jesus.
Yeah.
Which the transformation from this iconic Jesus statue to the actor is something out of Candyman. It is horrifying.
It kind of remind me of Candyman.
It's a little Candyman-y. Clive Barker's original Candyman.
Yeah.
It's like this here. It's the ceramic turning into flesh. And the effect, even though it's 18 years old, is still
18.
How old is this?
This was 89.
Oh, so 32 years old.
And which is the controversy of
which
it
is funny because
definitely
I wouldn't
holds
have
up, because if this video were released today, I think there would still be because uproar.
The difference between and there was a point where 89, and it was a big deal, and then it wouldn't have been a big deal in the mid 90s, as big of a deal in the mid 90s, but now racists can just be openly racist. So it would have just been it would be even worse now.
Yeah.
Because it would be what?
Yeah, so basically I think a lot of people were offended that
we are talking about the end of Reagan's America too. There's very conservative, very religiously conservative. We're talking about the height of televangelism.
Yeah.
So to portray Jesus as black, and then there is a moment in this where Madonna herself is experiencing stigmatic symptoms. So these things would drive conservative Christians just right off a cliff.
But yeah, and then basically, so she goes to the police station to help him out, and the police station is the same exact set as the church, and then
it zooms
she wakes up, and then
no, she doesn't wake up, because when she gets him out of the police cell, it zooms out and we can see the curtains.
Oh yeah, a red curtain comes down, and then everyone in the music
video... They're doing a curtain call.
Yeah.
None of this really happened, which she read one, the theocratic idea about it.
Many scholars have actually written about this music video, and professors have tried to analyze the themes and stuff, and there are some that see it's Madonna trying to redeem herself as a hero, and then the curtain call at the end is the realization of, because before the curtain comes down, we go back to the scene of her in front of the crosses and she's smiling.
Well, also in the story, the story portion of the video, Jesus has returned to he walks back into the bars in which the statue was and turns back into ceramic.
Yeah.
Again, terrifying, because it's But then that's what she, quote unquote, wakes up from.
Yeah.
So you're saying you care.
So there was one professor who saw this as it's the end, like the heroine saved the day and Madonna's the hero, like that kind of, like a female empowerment kind of thing. I read there's like quite a few blogs and stuff out there of people analyzing this video.
You just, paraphrased a college professor who probably has a BA or something. And I'm going to tell you why that person's wrong. Because if that's the case, then this is not... That was weird. That this is not only a video about female empowerment, it's also a white savior story.
Yeah, I understand that.
So, here's how I see the end of this. The end of this video, up to the point where she walks into the police station and we see that the police station and the church are the same place. Mm-hmm. That is all actual story. Mm-hmm. As soon as we see the police station and the church simultaneously, we are now in fairy tale land. This is now a play. This isn't how things really end. Yeah. She's showing, look, all the story up to here, that's really what happens from the time you see that it's a stage on, this isn't how it ends. This isn't real life. Don't look at my video and see the end of it and say, oh, well, look at that. You look at the end of this video and go, oh, well, it doesn't really end like that, does it? Mm-hmm. Ever.
Yeah.
Like, in real life, that guy who found the lady and tried to help but got blamed for it probably would have gone to prison for it. Mm-hmm. And that's just the reality of the world. Yeah. So she didn't, instead of putting that in a video, why not say, this isn't how it really ends? Like, play the old switcheroo on the audience, What do you think?
Yeah, I can see it as like that. So,
is that all you got on it?
Yeah, I basically just had notes of like the making of and the controversy and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So, we're moving on?
Yeah.
Meat and potatoes. The reason why we're all here.
All right. So, last week we began our analysis of It Follows, and we stopped at the point where Jay first sees the entity, the old lady following her at school, and she turns around and busts through the doors.
Which, by the way, the name of the sound of the music, I was incorrect. This is where I'm going to correct myself. The name of the music at the time that she's running away from the old lady is not Heels Again. It's a separate motif called Old Maid. Which this one has less of those striking strings and more of the drum that sounds like walking. Doom, doom, doom. And it's really cool. Now, if I just made a noise and you think, oh, this is where he's going to put in the song, if you listen to the podcast version, guess what? You're wrong, because there's a different one that I'm going to put in later.
So then we see Jay driving off, and it's kind of these slow motion shots where she's driving, but she's looking around, and then we're kind of seeing what she sees ahead of her, like she's driving out of a tunnel, and it's just slow motion. And then we see her get out of the car and enter this ice cream shop, and we see that this is where Paul and Kelly work. And then the next shot, it's one of those hand scenes again. She's
sitting on a bucket of ice
cream. Yeah, it's an overhead shot of her hands just swirling ice cream in a cup. And she tells them
the whole story,
what Hugh told her, and basically Paul then invites himself to sleep over and stand guard.
Well, he says he offers to help, and like there are moments in this movie that are kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
There are little chuckle moments, and one of the times is where he goes, well, I could come stay over and, keep watch. I'll stay up all night and keep watch. And both of the sisters at the same time go, no. But then Jay reluctantly kind of takes it back. She's like, you know what? That's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah. And another, I noticed something in this next scene. So we talk about things that kind of, you're like, okay, where are we? Like, what period of time? There's still an air conditioner in one of their windows.
In all technicality, there was an air conditioner in one of our windows until the end of October.
It's just another thing that just kind of throws you off.
Yeah.
Just like in their living room, they have the old TV, but then they're watching TV on a TV sitting on that TV.
Well, that's just Michigan. That's just Michigan.
And then, so Paul is just sleeping on the couch in the living room.
He's
and
not
watching
sleeping.
He's not sleeping.
He's watching Planet of Terror.
Yeah.
1951's Planet of Terror.
Mm-hmm.
That is actually public domain.
Mm. Okay.
It actually steals is the inspiration for movies like...
Maybe we should switch our pictures now, too.
You know what? I'm glad that you tell me to do these things, or I'd just completely forget.
But yeah, so he's in the living room. The girls are all upstairs. And then we do get a quick shot of the mom's room, and we just see her feet, and she's in bed wearing her shoes still.
And
but
the big old bottle of wine.
Yeah, she's drunk. She's passed out in bed.
Is it this
one?
Did you just add to the old folder?
There should be a separate folder. If you go to the side, is it in the quick access?
What?
Like those folders there. Or click on one of those and see if it's in there. Or go to downloads. I think it's in downloads.
Uh-oh. Tara lost the...
I think I called it It Follows Part 2. Oh, go down one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's that one.
All right. There we go. Oh, I gotta fix it. Okay, go ahead. I'll fix this. You keep talking.
So yeah, the mom is there. She's just passed out because she's drunk. So Jay can't sleep, and she goes down to the living room with Paul, and they're just sitting on the couch together, and they're talking a little bit, and we find out that Paul was Jay's first kiss. They were other's first
they were
kisses.
Also friends before, like, they were friends before that idea of before there's that thing that always happens where boys and girls are something different.
Yeah, because we do also find out they used to hang out with Greg, because when they were kids, they found all these porno magazines behind
a pizzeria,
and they were hanging out in Greg's yard, like going through all these magazines, and his mom came out and caught them. But
oh, that's such a good picture.
They were each other's first kiss, but then we find out that Paul also kissed Kelly. So Jay is like, you've kissed two sisters. That's gross.
That's another one of these moments where, like, there's a couple moments in this movie, and especially just in this segment that we're going to talk about today, where there's a couple of little laughs.
Yeah. And then they hear breaking glass.
Oh, the tall man freaks me out.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's just a really good capture of it.
And then we hear breaking glass. So Paul goes into the kitchen to check it out, and he's like, there's a broken window in here, but no one's
before
here.
He comes back, she's on the couch, and it shows the wide angle of the rest of the room again.
Yeah.
And it's empty.
Yeah.
And you can see, like, a closet door.
Mm-hmm. And then you see the stairs, like, where the stairs go upstairs.
Yep.
Where the stairs go upstairs.
Well, but and then he comes back and he just stands in that same frame.
Yeah.
This shot is eerie for no reason. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing in it but him standing, and I think it's the space.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, usually when you shoot a person talking in a room to someone else, it's going to be from here to here, and then when they're done talking, you're going to go back to the other person talking from here to here. It's half this room and then him, and it makes it really eerie.
Because it's like, am I going to see something? Should I be seeing something right now?
Is this thing going to come out right next to him?
Yeah.
Like...
So then basically he runs upstairs because
he's going to get Kelly.
Yeah, he's like, if I'm going to check this out, I should go get your sister. And then here we get these...
Uh-oh.
Ooh, it's a creepy shot.
Well, also...
Well, I'm about to talk about it, so you can keep it up.
No, I'm taking that one out.
Oh, is there nudity?
Yeah.
In that one? Oh, oops. I think I had another close-up shot of her face anyway, so that's fine. But, so then Jay is just alone on the couch, and we get these long, lingering shots of her walking slowly to the kitchen because she wants to see for herself. And then we get this really slow shot of her. She's looking straight on, but she's going into the kitchen.
We get that music again that sounds like footsteps.
Yeah, she turns slowly, and then we get this instant shot of the kitchen, and you see the broken window, and a chair is knocked over, but there's this girl walking slowly towards her. She's wearing just a bra, but her bra is like slipping off.
It's like ripped.
She's wearing one sock. She has 2 black eyes. She's missing teeth. And she starts urinating as she's walking closer to Jay. And then we get that shot of Jay, like...
She backs up and actually...
up against the wall.
So she has her arms behind her back. The girl.
Yeah.
And when Jay backs up against the wall, she backs up the same way the girl is walking towards her. Mm-hmm. So you're looking, like, there.
Yeah.
So... She backs up with her to the wall with her arms behind her back, and the girl is walking towards her with her arms behind her back. It's the tiny things that make this movie so good.
So the entities move very slowly. So Jay runs upstairs and locks herself in a room, and then Paul and Kelly are knocking.
This is where we get that John Carpenter paranoia. This is where you can start making comparisons to John Carpenter's The Thing. Mm-hmm. Because there's a knock on the door, and it's startling to the audience, and you hear Paul and Kelly talking. Mm-hmm. And you're like... And even as an audience member, you're like, okay, I want Paul and Kelly to be on the other side of that door, but how am I sure that that's them? Mm-hmm. And I really think that is the moment in the movie where you start... Because it's just showing the door. From you can see all the wall and the door. And you're like, if that door opens, what's coming through? Mm-hmm. It's such excellent shooting.
It is them, and she lets them in, and Jay is freaking out, and she's like, water, I need water. So there's that water thing again.
There's the water thing again.
And then... they're in there, and Kelly's like, I'll go get you water, and Jay's like, no, stay here. And then the doorknob starts rattling, and like again, at this time you're like, did the thing make it upstairs already? And then
you're paranoid again. And it's every time, and it's not like in a lesser movie you'd be like, oh god, they're doing the same thing again. In this one it's like, oh no. Like it works every time. And you hear Yara talking through the door this time. Mm-hmm. And I forget who says to let her in. Somebody unlocks the door to let her in. And they step away, and as Yara walks into the room, we get the tall man, and he's got to be 7 foot. Mm-hmm. Comes behind her, and this actor that plays the tall man just towers over this young woman who plays Yara. And he, like, it cuts before... He has
to, like, bend down to come into the room.
And it cuts before he actually enters the room, because as soon as... he comes out of complete darkness.
And it's strange, too, because the entity has suddenly changed shape. Mm-hmm. But I've read that this entity in particular is her father.
representing her father?
Represents her father.
I would dispute that, but I don't know
we'll
anything
get into
else.
that later, because it can be, as Hugh said in a previous scene, like, I think it sometimes appears as people we love just to hurt us more.
I agree.
And I have read blogs where the entity seems to change, like, depending on the scenario or the paranoia that the victim might be thinking of. So it's in Jay's home now, so of course that would be hurtful if she sees her dad again at the home.
And he also has no eyes. The tall man has no eyes.
Yeah.
Here's the girl from the kitchen.
Yeah.
She has no teeth and black eyes. She also, which I agree with the current or the last analysis of the girl form. There's the tall man there. The last analysis of the girl form of her being a representation of Jay's attack, like going from a consensual sexual experience to turning into a sexual assault. That just being a representation of that.
Yeah.
The tall man, we're gonna go into why I don't think it's her dad, but that's not for another couple weeks.
Yeah.
Actually.
So basically, there's like a sliding glass window in this room, so Jay goes out it. Yeah. And then
it cuts to Greg hanging out with some chick in his car. They're just like smoking
but then
weed.
We see Jay in the background
Just climb down her latticing, jump on a bicycle, and take off. And you see Greg turn around and go,
and they're just kind of, like, looking at her, and then Paul comes out
and he's
yelling
calling
after her. So she rides to a park, and she just gets on the swings because it's like she knows it's gonna be coming behind her, like from where she was coming. So there's this big park, and she's kind of just looking for any movement in the darkness. So there's these different scenes of, like, you know, the
just
trees and
space.
the darkness and the empty space. And then she does see movement, but it's her friends. And so they're all standing there talking, and Jay's like, I'm scared, and Kelly's like, I'm scared now too. And then they see another figure coming, and Jay is like, do you see that? And they're like, yeah. And then they realize it's Greg.
He's like, and it's so funny because she's like, do you see it? And it gets even more tense. And then he's like, hey, what's up?
Yeah.
He's just so chill about it. It's like, what's going on?
It makes me wonder where that girl he was with went. Like, was he just like, okay, you gotta go?
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's wondering what was going on because, like, as we found out in the previous scene, they were all friends when they were younger. They all used to hang out. So he's concerned about what's going on. And then Jay is basically like, I need to find Hugh. And Greg is like, what did he do to you?
He's like, I gotta go. And they're like, you gotta go where? And he's like, well, if we're gonna go anywhere, I gotta get my car.
Yeah, like, no question at all.
Can't
like, I'm involved now.
I'm here now, and if I'm gonna help you, we kind of need a car.
So then we get these scenes. They're driving through Detroit, and
if I could just stop you there.
Yeah.
In the score, this particular piece of music is called Detroit. And it's such a cool piece of music. It's very synthy. I would compare it to, like, Kavinsky, Daft Punk. It's got this really cool, like, synth line. The shots of Metro Detroit as they're going fit so perfectly with this music. And it really brings you into this hole of hopelessness. It reminds you of something that used to be beautiful that's a little tainted now.
Yeah. Because we're getting all these, like, scenes of, there's obvious economic disparity, and then you see, like, all the graffiti and
burned buildings.
It's like, Jay has this look on her face where she's surprised looking out the window, like, maybe it looks different from what she remembers it, you know?
Or maybe it just looks different now.
Yeah, because she did know where Hugh lived. He just would never let her inside.
Quote unquote lived.
Yeah, because he was embarrassed of where he lived. So they show up at the house where he lived, and it's empty. And we do get a quick scene of like the neighbor that lives behind him just kind of looking like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
But they get into the house, and all of the windows are like covered with newspaper and like comics and stuff, and all the windows have these makeshift alarms like made out of pop cans.
So if something were to ever come through the window, all the pop cans would clang together.
Yeah. And so they're just like going through the house looking for any clues, and Paul finds where he was sleeping. There's just like a mattress on the floor and all these tissues because
there's that, but there's also a couple other things that happen here.
Mm-hmm.
First, Yara's standing up on the counter, and she's like looking up on top of the cabinets she's using her clamshell reader as a light. And Greg starts like hardcore checking her out. The camera starts at her ankles and just goes up until it gets to the top, and then she trips a little bit, and he kind of laughs. Jay is going through one room, and she's like going through a closet. There's a couple shirts still hanging up. Kelly's going through the bathroom, and there are pill bottles with no labels on them.
And they're still quite full.
They're still full.
Pills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they don't have any labels on them. Well, she goes to close the door on the medicine cabinet, and it falls out of I think it's the only jump scare in the whole movie. Because it falls off the wall, and Jay is on the other side, like looking into this closet, and when they see each other, they both go, ah! It's pretty good.
So yeah, Paul is up in the bedroom. There's just like a mattress on the floor, and there's all these just tissues because Hugh had a stash of like porn magazines and
which also that takes us out of time again.
Mm-hmm.
Why do teenagers who constantly, even in this movie, every once in a while they have phones in their hand?
Yeah.
Why do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so he's up there, and then Jay comes up there, and she's looking through the windows because they're just covered, and she does see someone walking past the house, but it's just like a passerby.
It's just a dude. She looks out like between the things, and she sees a dude, and like she gets freaked out, but you as the audience go, okay, that's obviously just a dude.
Yeah. And then in one of the magazines, Paul finds a picture of Hugh. It's a picture of him in front of these lockers with a girl, and she's like wearing his Letterman jacket, and Paul is like, do you recognize this? Because it's just a jacket with an L, and Jay is like, oh yeah, that's for Lawson High School. And then so we cut to the school. And it's
I have a pretty
when we
cut to the school,
crazy scene.
There's a lot to unpack in the next 30 seconds of film.
Yeah.
So we go back to just like in the scene with Annie in the very, very beginning. This is a stationary camera that just turns 360 degrees, and a lot happens. First thing that happens, the first thing you see right down, it's like in the foreground of the camera is this young couple just making out. And it turns a little bit more, and you see a student who seemingly starts walking out of nowhere.
Yeah, so there's the other building of the school, and there's like these
or
windows.
It turns or something. Yeah.
And it's just grass. But you see a student, she obviously has like a backpack, but she seems to be walking from nowhere because she's not on a sidewalk, but she's seemingly walking straight from one of these windows, and you're like, oh, that's a student, but the way she's walking very slow and like no extra movement.
There's also another thing I saw is that you can so the two making out are looking away from camera. this student is walking towards camera.
Yeah.
But you can't see her face for some reason.
Right.
You can't see a face. But even when we go a little farther, and I'll get into that in a second, you can see everyone else's face. So there's a case. This may be just the filmmakers keeping you on your toes. It could always keeping the audience, because Jay and Greg don't even see it. See this particular student.
Yeah, it's us seeing it.
So, are we to believe? Because in the beginning we couldn't see it. Can we see it now without them?
Yeah.
It really gives you like this, like, oh no, I'm in on this now.
So, the camera continues to circle, and it cuts from that girl just walking seemingly out of nowhere to back inside the school, and we see Jay and Greg.
And that's the thing, it's not a cut. This is a continuous.
Yeah, it's a continuous thing, and you can see Jay is holding the picture of Hugh, and then they walk by, and the camera is still going around, so other people kind of cut in front of the camera, and then you get like a quick shot,
angle shot into the office.
Yeah, you see a lady just standing there, and then you see Jay and Greg go to talk to her, and the camera again spins outside, the same shot we saw before of the couple, and then the girl is still walking.
She's closer now.
Very slowly, but she's a little bit closer, and then it circles in more again. You just see like a girl in a cheerleader's outfit just walk out the door, and then it kind of just stops and zooms in
to the office,
yeah,
where Jay and Greg are. It shows that like the lady at the desk closes a yearbook, puts it back in the stack of yearbooks, and they kind of wave. And this is the first cut we get in probably a good 45 seconds a minute, where it goes back to the car.
Yeah.
And Paul and Yar are in the back seat of the car. Paul, Yar, and Kelly are in the back seat of the car.
Yeah.
And Jay and Greg are in the front. And he says, "What did you find out?" And they say, "Well, his real name is Jeff Redman." And she gave us the address. And Greg puts his hand on Jay's shoulder, and he's like, "It's gonna be all right."
Yeah, and then you get this shot of Paul just.
It's basically
looking,
like,
like jealous and kind of defeated, and then it cuts back.
Wait, it doesn't even cut. It just focuses out.
Yeah.
And she's still, that student is now center camera.
So it goes back, you see the back of Greg and Jay again, but then the camera focuses outside of the car, and that same student is walking towards the car.
And you still can't see her face.
Yeah. But the camera purposely focused on her. So it's like, are we paranoid now?
Right.
Or because it seems like she's walking towards the car.
Right.
But where did she come
but
from?
Also,
because technically she didn't come from behind them initially when we see her at
There's
the
also
school.
no way that, because the way it works, according to the rules, is this thing is walking. It walks in a straight line, but it's walking.
Yeah.
And if they went from one side of the city to the other side of the city, it wouldn't have caught up to them in the time of them just stopping. And any time we do see it catch up, they've been somewhere for a while. Which, next week, we get a lot of, oh no, you guys gotta move.
Yeah.
But this week, they're moving a lot.
Yeah. So then they find Jeff, formerly known as Hugh. They find his house, and Jay is greeted at the door by his mom.
Who, if you've been following along over the course of our episodes, the actress that plays his mom is the lady walking towards them walking towards them when he has her tied up in the wheelchair.
Yeah, when we first see it, that is actually the actress that plays his mom. So I was reading that it's like an indication, like it was telling him, like, I'm not done with you yet.
Yeah, I haven't forgotten you.
Yeah. So the mom invites them all in, and then we get like a shot. They're all sitting in a circle outside.
One of the things I noticed about the way Jeff is dressed here it's almost little boy pajamas.
Uh-huh.
So we've gone to, the first time we see him, he's the cool dude. He's wearing the stylish jacket, his hair's done, and he's like this handsome guy. Now we see him, he has been reduced to a little boy in many ways. He's sitting cross-legged. He's hunched over. He's wearing these pajamas. It's very much so like a pulling back of this character.
So basically they're all sitting in a circle, and he's telling them that even though he passed it on to Jay, he can still see it. So he knows it's not done with him, and that
if you're so close to me and it gets you right in front of me, it can just get you and then get me.
Basically, he's telling her, just sleep with someone else and pass it on, because if it kills you, it's going to come back to me. And he's basically, they're asking, like, how did this start? And he mentions that he had a one-night stand, and that's when it started for him, which makes me wonder if Annie, at the very beginning, is the one that gave it to him, because after she died is what?
No.
Why? How do you know?
Annie wouldn't be the one that gave it to him, because then he would have had to have died for it to go back to her. It only focuses on the person on the end of the line.
Yeah.
So what I think, he's tried this before.
Yeah.
And he tried this with Annie already, and it got her. Which is why he had to go to such extreme measures to give it to her, to give it to Jay.
Because I think he tried to go to a place farther away so that even if it did get Jay, it would take a while before it came back to him.
And then once he heard that Annie had died,
yeah,
he got desperate.
So then it's like Jay is listening, but she's still kind of shut out, and we get another hand scene
where she's
she's plucking grass.
Yeah, she's sitting with her knees up towards her chest, and she's taking grass out and lining it up on her knee.
Yeah, which I remember doing that a lot when I was a kid. So
yeah, it's almost like,
it's like she reverts back to these childlike mannerisms.
I feel like that's like a what do you call it? Where you're processing what people are saying to you, but you're also trying to deal with it in a physical way. Yeah.
So we get that, and then
here's another little chuckle.
Yeah, and this is basically where we're gonna leave off.
There's a girl walking towards them with a soccer ball, and he starts crying. He freaks out. He's like, "You all can see her, right?" And it's especially Kelly and Yara turn around, and they're like,
"Yep."
Yeah, like Kelly, Yara, and Greg turn around, and they're like, "Yep." And it's a good, like, he's freaking out, and they're like, "Yeah, we can see her." Dummy.
Yeah. So basically, Jeff tells her it walks. So if you go somewhere far away, you can buy yourself some time to think about if you want to pass this on to somebody else.
But it walks in a straight line.
Yeah.
So if you got to take a lot of just because it took you a while to get there, it's going to take it slightly more time, but not much.
Yeah. And basically, that's where we're going to leave off for this week.
Oh, I did want to talk about the placement of his house, because you brought this up.
Yeah.
There's 2 camera angles during this conversation scene. There is one of Jeff's back, Jeff and Jay's back, that shows Paul, Yara, and Greg. And then there's another one that shows their back and Jay and Jeff. Now, when we're showing Jay...
Jay's not sitting next to Jeff. I think it's
She's
Kelly.
like off to it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But when you see... Regardless, they're sitting in a circle in the yard. And Tara brought this up. When they're showing one side of it, she was like, I thought they were at his house. Because there's this part... There's obviously a park. Yeah. There's like tennis courts and a playground and a soccer field. And she's like, where did the... And I said, well, it looks like his house butts right up to a park. And they are literally sitting on the line between childhood freedom and adult responsibility again. It's the American house, especially this one. It looks like a really upscale house. It's got like 2 floors and a floral arrangement in the front. It's a fancy house by middle class terms. And then right across the street is just where every kid, if you opened a back door and said, "Go, kids," they'd go.
Yeah.
So we're, again, right on that line between freedom and responsibility and freedom.
Yeah, there's because that scene too where Jay just takes off and she goes to the park, it's like there's a lot of this subconscious,
reversion.
I shouldn't have wished myself to be an adult. I wish I could just go back to childhood where I didn't think about these things, or I didn't have this thing coming after me right now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I think that movie does that very well.
I do too.
But
this is where we're going to end it.
Yeah.
Which actually, we're kind of flying through the movie a little faster than I thought we were going to. So, we were talking about maybe something special we could do. Maybe if we run out of movie too early on this half of the season, which it looks like we only have probably 2 episodes of It Follows left, and then we're gonna have to do some fun stuff.
Yeah.
Which, stay tuned for that, because that is gonna be fun. And then we might have to talk about making Scene Again its own show, because I have to edit more than 2 hours worth of show now. Oh no!
Yeah, I think we're just having a lot of fun going back and watching these movies. And
so, thank you. Catch us every Sunday night. Twitch, Facebook, YouTube. And then most of the time, probably Wednesdays is when I get up on Spotify. If you want to hear
Tuesdays, I think.
Okay, yeah. Tuesday nights is usually when I get the audio up on Spotify, which, if you enjoy this show, like the way it is here, and you listen to us on Spotify, which, by the way, follow us on Spotify, and then that way you can get notified of every single episode as it goes up. I can actually add music we talk about into the middle of the episode.
Yeah, so our episodes on Spotify are a lot more enhanced.
Yeah. So on this episode, we'll probably have Stay Gold by Stevie Wonder. We'll probably have
Like a Prayer.
Like a Prayer. And I'm actually going to put the Detroit in this one.
Yeah.
Like that. Comment. Share it. What else can you do? If you watch us on YouTube, just tap the little bell thing.
Yeah.
So that you can get notified every time an episode goes up on YouTube. You can get notified every time we're live. If you follow us on Twitch and this is the first time you see us, go back, watch our VODs. Because you probably have no idea what was going on the last quarter of the episode.
Yeah.
So, I'll let you start the sign-offs.
Thank you for watching. Think pink. Have a sparkling week.
Adopt, don't shop.
Bye.
Bye.